Okay, welcome back. Tales from the Cassette. I think we're on episode 8 now. I'm Jeff Beach.
I'm Joey Graves.
All right, and welcome back to our show. Today we are going to talk about the best singers from our generation, which would entail 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe some things later. But I don't
maybe
think
some
you'll
more
hear,
recent ones as well.
Yeah, I don't know that you'll hear about Elvis Presley here today. That unless Joey's got that on his list. It's not on my list.
Even though we were alive when he was alive, but
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. Okay, so if this is your first time joining, this is just a couple friends talking about music they love, covering a wide range of topics. Going back, you'll find all of our episodes on Spotify and YouTube. You'll see it probably throughout a lot of our episodes. You'll hear Kiss a lot because that might be our favorite band, and we try to mix in a whole bunch of other topics as well. So today, as I mentioned, we are going to cover off on our favorite singers, and this could be male or female. My list, Total Accident, is a lot of male singers, but that's just typically a lot of the music that I listen to. And so anything you want to say before we start?
Well, typically I listen to mostly male singers as well, but however, my list does include some female singers.
Okay, well, good. It is funny when
out of the ordinary for me, actually.
Yeah, it is funny. I was listening to Fans in Motion podcast the other day, and they were doing a review of their favorite Night Ranger albums, and not that we did the ones from the 80s, but they did overall. And it was funny because they touched on a number of topics that we did about how the band struggled later in the 80s, and the label wanted slow songs, and then grunge was coming in, and they were on. It was, we didn't talk about it, but they talked about their label MCA and how bad they were managing rock bands. It was just interesting to listen to because we touched on some of that. So
other intelligent life forms out there, huh?
I know. I do like their podcast. Okay. We are going to talk about our favorite singers, the best singers from our generation. And I'm going to let you go first with your favorite singer. We got about 5 each, and there's probably many honorable mentions that'll be named. How about you go first, though?
All right, we'll just get it out of the way because I know we're both it's probably both in our top 5.
It's got to be.
Well, I know there's probably 2 of them that are going to be in our top 5 that we have on both our lists.
Okay.
One would be Lou Gramm.
Yes. Now, see, I would not have guessed that, but he is in my top 5.
He is and was a more so years ago, fantastic singer and grossly underrated, underappreciated.
Listening to his some of his early Foreigner albums and his voice, especially when it came to Foreigner 4 and some of the songs on there, a lot of people are really familiar with I Want to Know What Love Is and Waiting for a Girl Like You. One of my favorite songs is from Foreigner 4, and listening to his voice on Girl on the Moon is outstanding. Just really good voice. He's still singing nowadays. I saw him probably 10 years ago, maybe not 10 years ago, maybe like 7 years ago, live. And it's a little rough now.
Yeah, I mean, most of the singers of our generation are on the downhill slope when it comes to their vocals. I would have liked to have seen him at his peak.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, it'd been great to see Foreigner at their peak when they were early '80s on that tour with Jukebox Hero and Urgent. Um, I did see him actually perform on TV because they were inducted to the Hall of Fame, and
Yeah.
he performed with some of the people that were inducting him. It's kind of funny now, I guess, when you're inducted, they don't necessarily let you perform. And so, though Foreigner was there, a number of the band members were there. They actually didn't perform. The new band Foreigner, I think, performed with some additional members. So Sammy Hagar sang one of their songs. Demi Lovato sang one of their songs.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly Clarkson sang, and then Lou Gramm came out and sang with Kelly Clarkson on "I Want to Know What Love Is." So it was cool to see.
Well, I think he was at his peak vocally on Mr. Moonlight,
Oh yeah.
the
So later,
album Mr. Moonlight.
I haven't listened to that in a while, and some podcast I recently listened to, somebody said that was one of their favorites. I'm going to add that back on my list of things to listen to in the near future, because that's the second time I've heard that in a while.
Yep, Mr. Moonlight is again. It didn't really have any hits on it, but man, it's such a good album, so catchy.
Yeah, that was so he joined back with Foreigner in that, and then I think that was it. That was probably the last one with him on lead singer. Yeah,
Yeah, I believe so. Yes,
I believe so.
that's right at 97. 97 is when he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. So
Okay. All right. All right. Well, that was an agreement. I had that one in my list. Since we both had that one, how about you give another one?
I'll give a. How about I give a honorable mention?
Okay. All right. Let me look at my list.
So I'll follow it up with an honorable mention.
Okay.
And you just mentioned his name a while ago.
Oh yeah.
Sammy Hagar. Sammy Hagar.
He's not on my list. That's a good honorable mention, though.
If you go back and listen to some of the Van Halen live videos on YouTube, the man can really sing.
Mm-hmm.
And even, I mean, he's like 77 years old now. He can still sing. he's one of the few that is of that age that could still belt it out.
One of my walks recently, I haven't posted it yet because I didn't get to it that day, but I listened to VOA on the walk, and yeah, his albums before he joined Van Halen are really good. I think Van Halen probably propelled him more out in front of everybody than he was previously known. But yeah, he's such a good singer. And whenever I see him now, I'm like, that's the life I'd like to be living. That he's got, his tequila and his bars, and he's still singing, and his band that he has now with Jason Bonham was in it, and I think he's not touring with them anymore, but I think he's got Michael Anthony from Van Halen and a couple others, and the band is really good that he tours with today.
Well, yeah, as you kind of alluded to, I mean, anybody on these lists that I could choose just to hang out with and just become friends with, Sammy Hagar.
Sammy Hagar.
I mean, he is just laid back. Just seems like a good spirit.
Okay. I'm going to go through like 3 honorable mentions real fast that I'm not going to talk about.
Okay.
But I'm just going to mention them. I have to say John Bon Jovi because it's my wife's favorite band, and if I don't say it, it'd be a problem. Um, Dennis DeYoung, Styx, and Huey Lewis, which is a shame. That would have been a band I would love to have seen live, but he's got Meniere's disease, and they do not perform live anymore. So there was three right off the bat.
You okay? I'll do
All right.
another honorable mention,
Okay.
and this may surprise you. Steven Tyler.
Oh, you don't strike me as
I mean,
I don't think we've ever listened to Aerosmith together.
Pump, the album Pump
Yeah.
is classic. I mean, it is just every song on it is good, and but it's his distinctive voice. When you hear a song on the radio, you know instantly that it's Steven Tyler.
Steven Tyler. Yep.
So I would certainly give him an honorable mention outside of our top 10.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you. Let's just cover this one off because I would think this might be on your list. Maybe not. But this will be in my top 5. Steve Perry.
Steve Perry on my list,
Steve Perry.
on my top 5 list.
Yes, on my top 5. His I love his introduction to Journey. How they sort of just started blending him in when they brought him on with Infinity, and Greg Raleigh was still in the band, and so they were mixing in vocals, and even Robert Fleischman was still around a little bit. And so how they just basically they didn't just bring him in and unload all the songs on him, but if you listen to some of his albums, the early Journey albums are probably some of my favorite. I think it's funny when you get to Raised on Radio. I think it's a little bit too much commercialized, but when you listen to his stuff on like, Captured, which was mostly live, but Departure and Infinity, that's the voice that I really love.
Yeah, what a powerful singer. I don't know if we'll ever have a singer that can compare to Steve Perry.
Yeah, yeah,
And it doesn't matter the genre because his solo album here recently is more of a blues kind of based album, and I mean he certainly doesn't hit the high notes like he used to,
no,
but he's 76 years old, so give the guy some leeway there. But
yeah, he I think it's funny when you hear other interviews and then people sort of refer to him when they're talking about Journey as the voice. And they did a great job.
Yep.
Yeah, the voice. They did a great job. They did a great job of replacing him in the current iteration of Journey, and I like them a lot. We've talked about that and how good they are live, and how the new singer Arnell has really taken up the mantle. And I think they're not going to get Steve Perry back, and so but yeah. I tell you, another part of good singing besides the early Journey albums up and through the early '80s is to go listen to his solo album with O'Sherry, and the singing on that is very, very good as well.
What is Street Talk, right?
Street Talk, yeah. Right? Yeah, Street Talk. So that would be in my top 5. Sounds like it's in your top 5 as well.
Yep, top 5. Yep, Lou Gramm, and I knew that we were going to have Lou Gramm and Steve Perry
in our top 5. Have one more, but maybe not.
I don't know.
All right, give me one.
Top 5 or honorable mention?
We can clean out some honorable mentions. Maybe give me like 2 or 3.
Okay, I'll give you one. It's kind of going to be surprising. Uh-huh. The Bee Gees. all
Oh
of
yeah,
them,
all of
all
them.
of them. Now, I am I am stressing more of the pre Saturday Night Fever era
Yeah.
BGs. If really go on YouTube and watch some of their 60s and early 70s material live performances, and these guys were just unbelievable. Um, so go look at some of their early live performances on YouTube. You'll thank me later.
Okay.
We're 50 some years old. We weren't around in the 60s when they came out, but man, just just what a talented family that they were. So there's only one left alive. So Barry.
All right. I'm gonna rattle four names off that I couldn't fit on my list today. Um, that I like in some fashion, and that would be Mick Jagger, David Byrne, Brian Adams, and Daryl Hall. Yeah, couldn't hit the top five. But
Well, I
as I
will
was making
say
lists, and
another.
I'm going down my list, and I'm like, okay, well, I've got these, and so I just started adding names to my like honorable mention list because I didn't have room to move them up into my top five.
A real quick one. I think another grossly underrated vocalist is Klaus Meine
Scorpions.
from Scorpions. Yes,
Yep, yep, I like
great
that too.
singer. So he's outside my top, but he was certainly an honorable mention.
All right, well, let's have a top five from you. So we've got two so far. We cover Lou Gramm, Steve Perry.
So okay, this one is. I was looking at my list just right now, and
Yep.
I needed to make a decision between Stevie Nicks and Pat Benatar, but I am going to go with Pat. I'm going to go with Pat Benatar. I
All
think she's
right.
more powerful. She's got more powerful voice than Stevie Nicks.
I'm writing these down, by the way, because when I go back and edit this, I try to put pictures in, and then if I can't remember, so I'm just writing. If I don't have it here, I'm writing it down. So just in case you're wondering
Okay,
what I'm doing.
oh, that's fine. So yeah, I would
Um,
say Pat Benatar.
I yes, on your comment with Stevie Nicks, I like some of her early stuff, but I personally believe that she's at fault for Fleetwood and Mac not being together anymore. So I can't put her on my list. And I don't
But
really
man,
like her solo stuff at all.
no, I don't. I think some of her material is not the greatest, but
Yeah.
that's why I was going back and forth. If you look at lists of who the professionals believe are the best vocalists, or journalists believe are the best vocalist, she's usually on that list.
Right.
But I believe Pat Benatar is the better vocalist.
What's your favorite Pat Benatar song?
Wow. Um, oh man. Anything off of yeah, well, let's see here.
I'll tell you mine while you're thinking about it.
Go ahead.
Mine is an oddball. My favorite one is Invincible. That was on the Legend of Billie Jean soundtrack from like back in '83.
Yeah, I would say that's up there for me.
Yep.
Um, but that's actually, I mean, that was actually written by Holly Knight. There's
Mm-hmm.
a kiss connection there.
Just in it.
Um, you better run off of Crimes of Passion is pretty
Yeah.
good.
Now,
But I also like Invincible. So
mhm. Now, We Belong wants me to like stab myself in the ear.
Yeah, that was way overplayed, and I know you were stuck with a roommate that probably played it ad nauseum as well
I just can't. I
in
cannot. Maybe that's
college.
why I can't. I can't stand that song. And anytime it comes on, I shut it off. I can't handle it. Yeah, terrible song.
Um,
All right. Well, all right. I'll give you one of my top five. Um, and this one might surprise you.
okay.
Um, George Michael. George Michael. And I didn't become a fan of George Michael early on, in his stuff when he was with Wham and he's doing those performances. And then, he decided he wanted to be controversial and, all that kind of stuff. And, he's obviously got his issues and everything. But speaking of college, when I was in college, I got the Listen Without Prejudice album and listened to that. And I think it was the roommate who probably was playing Pat Benatar all the time that uh, had this album. And if you've not listened to this album, it is great. It is not. There was one hit I think on there. Freedom is on this album, but for a singer that not too much earlier than that had put out I Want Your Sex. And this is a complete like 180 direction, a very mature sounding album. Just really, really good stuff on there. And it wasn't huge commercially, except for Freedom was a big song. But there's really good songs on there, from Something to Save and what was the other thing? Oh, and Praying for Time, which the album opens with.
I haven't listened to enough of his material to say to to agree or disagree with you
Yeah.
on that
He's
one.
one of the singers, and I've got another one on my list. He's one of the singers that you'd love to see what he's doing now had he be still being alive, because he was such a
Yeah,
good singer. His voice wasn't going. What would he have been doing today? Would he have gotten his life back together? And what would, if he's still touring some things? My guess is that he'd be pretty successful right now, especially in this time where nostalgia acts do really well.
yep.
Yep.
I'm sure they would have. He would have reunited with what Andrew Ridgely
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
sometime. Maybe
They
not
could have done a
for
lot. Could have done a
maybe
lot.
not long term, but they would have certainly done a reunion tour.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew Ridgely would have been so happy to do that.
Yeah. I'm sure he's probably doing fine, but I'm sure he could do more. Yeah.
Oh,
Um, all right. Well, let's do some more honorable mentions and make sure we'll go through the list.
all right.
I'll give.
Since you probably never listened to him, I will say honorable mention is Eric Gronwall, who
Who's
we've
that?
talked about before.
You have to refresh me.
It was the lead singer of the band Heat,
Okay.
and he was in Skid Row for about, I don't know, 3-4 years.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You did mention that.
I mean, he was also on in two. I think it was 2018. He played a role in the live television event. I guess Jesus Christ Superstar. Just a fantastic singer. Look him up on YouTube. It's ErikGronwall,
How you say it
and
again?
he is Gronwall, Gronwall.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
I'm gonna give you four because I had a huge list that I just kept making, but here's four that could not make my list. James Taylor, Rick Springfield, Tom Petty, and Robert Plant.
And I think you have to add another singer with honorable mention, Paul Stanley.
Oh yeah, that was one that
Hot,
I
hot.
struggled with.
Well, I mean, he was an okay singer, but really the Hot in the Shade, Revenge era, I think he really his voice was at its peak.
Mm.
And if you go listen to some live footage of that era, his voice is unbelievable.
I like his voice in the right around the time of his solo album. I think his singing on that solo album and the albums around that, so Rock and Roll Over and Dynasty, um, his singing, for example, Magic Touch, that voice is the voice that I like of
Yeah.
his. Yeah.
Well, even
Yeah.
even like Unplugged, his
Yes.
voice on Unplugged.
It's great. Great. Yeah. Um, okay. Yeah, he was on
I,
my honorable mention as well.
I have. I'll give you another one that's in my top five.
Okay.
Freddie Mercury.
Hey, I got him on my top 5 as well. Look at that.
There you go. I mean, he's got to be in everybody's top five. I mean, the man was very talented,
Yes.
and I think what happened to him is that he met somebody in Brian May and the other um, Roger, was it Roger Taylor?
Mm.
I can't remember the bassist name, but um, came together with these others, and they just created something so special. And I think it just elevated his talent, the material. So
Yeah, his singing is just great, and live he sounds great. Certainly a front man for that band. Even in his later years, when you found out later that he was so sick, um, those last couple albums, Miracle and Innuendo, have some really good songs on them.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about it before when we did best albums, but that album, Night at the Opera in '75, is just outstanding. I
yeah.
didn't have you listen to that one when we did our reviews, but you should listen to that.
Well, maybe we should do one of those another episode where I make you listen to an album you've never heard, and you do the same to me, and we'll give a review.
Yeah, we could do some reviews coming up.
Okay,
Well, that's on my list too. Yeah, so we've got 3 out of the
three.
top 5 on the list.
Yeah,
So we need 2 more. Well, actually, I had George Michael on mine, so that's 4 of mine already. Then,
yeah.
all right, so I'm gonna let
So
you go again because I got one
all
more.
right, this is my last one on my list.
Okay,
Ann Wilson from Heart.
they're on my Anne and Nancy are on my honorable mention.
Especially, of course, in the '80s they got a little popish and slow songs and
Yeah,
going for the rock, the ballad.
yeah.
But Magic Man, Crazy on You, Barracuda,
Oh
oh,
gosh.
and then listen to her and Nancy do Stairway to Heaven
Mm-hmm.
when they were doing the Lincoln Center for the Led Zeppelin.
Yep.
Kind of like I don't know, it was a appreciation of Led Zeppelin, I guess. Oh, and it was only maybe what 20 years ago. Man, she could sing.
Yeah, it's funny. The '70s music for Heart is outstanding. Yeah, Magic Man and the singing in those songs is so good. Yeah, the '80s, all their stuff, I'm not a fan at all. But one of my favorite songs from them is actually sung by Nancy. Is These Dreams? I think is
Yeah,
a really great song. And it's probably the only song I like from that time frame. And it's funny that Nancy sings that one because Ann's mostly the singer. But yeah, that one's on there. Since you brought up a couple females, I'll give you one that's on my honorable mention list. Is Susanna Hoffs.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
man, she's hot. I mean, there is just no. I mean, even today, I mean,
yeah,
she is real literally. If you have not seen a photo of her like today, like
she hadn't changed.
in 2024,
Yeah.
what a she's 65 years old. Man.
She's still putting out music too. So if you haven't listened to her newer stuff, you should go. You'd like it. Yeah, it's
Well,
good.
I like
Sounds
she did a couple albums with what's his name? Uh, um, let me see if I can find it.
yeah. She just released one that was. I'm not. I have to go back and read what it was. It's called The Lost Record. So I think it was some old recordings that weren't released. But she just released that recently. But there was one she released in 23 called The Deep End that was really good. There's and she did a remake of Under My Thumb on that from the Rolling Stones.
Oh, Matthew Sweet is his name.
Oh yeah.
So they did two albums of like cover songs together,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really good. Yeah, I highly recommend that.
Yeah, her voice still sounds like it did back in '85.
Man, and
Yeah,
I mean, I remember like the videos back in the day, just
yeah.
the way she looked at the camera. Oh my
Hmm.
God!
She was looking at you.
Yes, uh, that's what I thought at the time. But
She was
oh
looking at you.
yeah, she's such a beautiful woman and very talented, and so
All right. Well, I'll give you my last top five. Last top
all right.
five is Elton John.
Yeah, I expected that to come up. Yes.
Yeah, Elton John. Um, I yeah, he's got a just massive catalog. He released 20 plus, maybe 30 albums. I didn't count them all. Um, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of his later year stuff. But again, most of his stuff from the '80s back around Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Um, the song "Madman Across the Water" is just great, great song. And what was the other? Madman Across the Water, and there's another one that's on my favorite list. I'm gonna blank out, but I'll come back to it. But his singing in those songs are just really good. So intricate. We saw him in concert on his last tour, and he still has it. I think we talked about that in the tours. That he's still got it. He's not running around like he used to, but he still got it. And I think he stopped. I think he stopped touring now. So
All
finally,
right. So if you had somebody had you up against the wall, if you had to pick the top two, who would your top two be? You have to pick them.
top two out of the list I just gave you.
Yep.
Um, Steve Perry and Freddie Mercury.
I would do Ann Wilson and Lou Graham.
Oh, look at that. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Did we do all five of yours already? Or do you have another one?
We did. Yep, we
Okay.
did.
All right. Well, I've got some more honorable mention real quick to just make sure I mention
Sure.
them all. Let me see. I'm gonna make sure I write Ann Wilson down because I didn't want to miss that. So, who was on my list? Let's see. I just gave those. Phil Collins.
No.
His Genesis music, Abacab, was just a great. Yesterday when I walked, I listened to the Led Zeppelin album, but the second one on my list that I was looking at listening to was Abacab from Genesis. And the other one that we've talked about in our concert experiences and what we'd like to see, Bruce Springsteen.
Supposedly leaving the country, I believe, is what I've
Oh,
read.
is he gone? Maybe he'll have to release
Yeah.
on the Canadian. Maybe he can go release on the Canadian labels.
He might have been born in the USA, but maybe he's going to be residing
Not li-
somewhere else. I
not
have no
living in the
idea.
USA with James Brown.
Yeah, not living in the USA.
Um, yeah. So yeah, it was interesting when I was making all these lists, and I was like, well, we we lost a couple because you've got Freddie Mercury and George Michael, and who would you have liked to seen? And there was one more. I had Bobby Kimball on there, original Toto singer.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about the what was his name,
Oh yeah,
Fredrickson. That
Fergie Fredrickson.
I,
Yep.
yeah, from Isolation. I think he was in
Hmm.
Isolation. Man, what a voice!
Yeah, he was on. I'd have to look it up, but he joined another band after Toto. After that didn't work out any further, and I didn't know he was on there. And it was I was just Spotify was just spinning songs out, and I'm listening to this song. And I'm like, boy, that voice sounds familiar. So I went to look, and it was him. And then one more. Actually, and this almost ended up my top 5, and it just got bumped out. It was probably been number 6 was Lindsey Buckingham. Yeah. Speaking of Fleetwood
he
Mac.
he will probably appear on a future list of mine
Favorite
when we
guitarist?
do favorite guitarists. So
Yeah. He's a great guitarist. I like him a lot.
yeah,
I like his solo stuff. He's saved Fleetwood Mac so many times over the years, and kept them going. So, but yeah,
but
I
yet
think
they
that
treated
was
him like crap.
yes, yes, they did. Well, and you don't know behind the scenes is that he might have
I know.
treated them
I
like
don't
that
know the whole
too.
story, but
Yeah, there's probably more there, but it seemed a little weird. So yeah, that is our 5 favorite and lots more mentioned lead singers. It was a good show.
yeah, and we're
Good show.
somewhat on time.
Yeah, and somewhat on time. All right, so as we've talked about before, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we have a Twitter page, we're on Instagram, um, and we're on Facebook. We pretty much cover the gamut. And so we need everybody to like, share, comment. What else?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to get the opinion of other people. What are your favorite?
Hmm.
Who are your favorite vocalists?
I was a little
Who
intimidated doing this because you mentioned you might mention a singer and somebody would say that's not a good singer. But I pulled up Rolling Stone's top 100, and this was top 100 of all time. But in their top 20 was Bob Dylan, and I'm sorry, but he is not one of the top 20 singers of all time.
Well, I mean, but is it top 100 best singer, or is it top 100 most distinctive voice?
This was singers,
I mean, his
and yeah,
voice is distinctive. You know who it is.
I know, but when I saw that, I completely lost my, concern about putting anybody down because I'm like, yeah, he's not. He wouldn't come close
Well,
to Bob Dylan.
everybody has a right to their own opinion. So,
Just not on this show. Just not on this show. Okay. Well, we will be back soon. We've got a full list of potential topics. I've been listening to some of those other podcasts I mentioned, and some of them are doing like just picking an album and doing a single album review. Those have been pretty good. We did. We obviously talked about Kiss as in our favorite albums. Might need to dig into one of those. I listened to an Elder one last week. That was really interesting.
I don't think Elder's that bad, but
No, and yeah, the people that I listened to, I forget which podcast it was. They didn't think it was that bad either. So not one of their best. All right. And with that, we'll call it a day. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
All right, let's see if I can end this thing.